Peace, peace, everyone. This is your girl Siquoia Blue back in here with another episode. And today we have a special guest. His name is JD, and he is going to talk to us about race. He is an inspiring activist, entrepreneur, podcast host, and author. So this is going to be interesting, y'all, because there's so much going on right now in the world, and racism is at the forefront, especially with what has gone on at the debate recently and what Trump said and all types of stuff's going on. So let's start with that. Like, what it looks like you grew up in a Black community, right? Like,
I
how
did.
was it growing up in the all Black community?
So the community itself was sort of 50-50, right? The municipality, the school district was much more populated with black folks. So our high school was about 93% Black. And we moved next door to who became my best friend's family when I was 4 years old. And it was, grandmother, mother, aunts, and uncles living in the house. And then the four brothers, of which the two older ones were my best friends. And so uh, I having Black friends as a white man, once you get Black friends, it's hard to get white friends growing up. And so more and more, I met more and more of my friends through them. And if on the cover of my book is my high school prom picture, and I'm pretty easily identifiable on that cover as far as from a distance anyway, for sure.
Oh man. So why was it hard to be friends with white people once you became friends with Black people?
Because not many people have parents that really purposely chose them for them to grow up in a community, other
Mm.
than their own, especially, and especially from white growing up in a Black community. And so most of us just don't get a chance to really experience a lot in the Black community. We don't get to experience what Black culture is. We get to learn about it through media and education, but that's not really teaching us the entire truth behind it. So,
Yeah, there's so much history that's being hidden and stuff.
yes. And, our entire culture, we don't learn about any other cultures other than American culture. And then we learn what's called world history, which is just about European wars and dominance in Europe. So
Hmm.
we're very sheltered, and it stems or it sparks an ignorance automatically just because
Yeah.
we think we're so great, but we don't even know how great we are because we won't even compare our greatness to anything else.
Yeah, I mean, there's so much to talk about with that. Like, do you think there is some fear, like, with white people as far as with Black people? Is there some fear of just us being stronger and intelligent, or just I don't know what the problem is? Like to this day, trying to figure it out. You
Hands
know.
down, there's fear. So one, there's fear with just acknowledging that this isn't white. I have less melanin in my skin. And less
Mm.
melanin means that I can't even go outside for as long as you can without some level of chemical help or other kind of help, right? My literally can't be in the sun as long. That's hard
Mm-hmm.
to make it seem like I'm superior to you when we talk about it in that sense. Now, if I'm white and white is pure and all of these things, right, I got to add all this trickery. And then if I create systems of trickery to show and make it seem like I'm better than you, but yet every time you show up, I get threatened by how great you are, of course, that like one of my favorite rappers growing up, Willie D, has a podcast, and
Oh yeah.
he always talks about if you were really superior to me, you wouldn't be worried about what I'm doing, right?
True.
But we spend so much time trying to keep Black folks from coming up because of the fear, and part of it is just practice over and over again of trying to position ourselves rather than just be the best version of ourselves, right? And so
Yeah.
instead of focusing on that, whereas if you're Black in this society, you got to work twice as hard to get half as far, as the saying
Mhm.
goes. Your focus is on how do I be the best version of myself. I'm comfortable
Mhm.
in the skin I'm in, whereas a lot of us just aren't, and we don't know. Subconsciously it's been planted in us for so long. We've been raised since babies to have these beliefs and these desires to hold on to
Mm.
our greatness, that we are threatened by anything that doesn't appear that way.
Yeah, I think that's the fear too. Like, you think about dating outside your race, and I just be thinking that it's in their DNA. They may not like me deep down. It's like
Yeah.
it might come out of nowhere. I always think that because it's just like it's Black people, we have some, things in our DNA that we have some traumas that we have to get past.
Right.
So it's like I'm thinking the same thing if I date outside of my race or even be friends, like close friends. I'm like, oh, is somehow he's gonna say,
Well,
she's not
and
that smart.
yeah, and or like, because I met my son's mother when he was 6 years old, and he's a 6'4" Black man now at 20 years
Mhm.
old. Well, and growing up, we were concerned about him hanging out with white friends. What happens if
Mhm.
y'all are just doing boy stuff and the police show up? It's easy to just be like, it was him, and now
Yeah.
he's the one that they're coming after, and he's the one that gets in trouble, and they're just saving their tail, not hoping that he gets in trouble. But it's so much easier when the system is built that way to be like, oh yeah, let's pick on the black kid. So
Mm.
there's a lot to think about in as we start to try and heal this cultural
Mm.
divide.
Yeah, I mean, and I'm curious what your parents thought about you hanging out with, other Black
So
people. Did they were they comfortable
this was
with
their
that?
intention. They purposely wanted to raise me and my
Mm.
sisters around Black community and Black folks, not knowing enough about it to know what the levels they were going to have to face and discrimination and what
Mm.
that meant, and what problems society would present, and challenges and things of that nature, what we would get into, what I mean, we were stopped coming
Mm.
home walking from the mall on so many occasions, walking through the neighborhood my parents grew up in. And, if it wasn't for me, who knows how much we got off because of who my parents were. And so
Mm.
it was, my parents definitely didn't know what they were getting into, but definitely knew they wanted to raise us not to be racist and in and around Black community, because they had not had that experience for themselves.
Wow, that's interesting that your parents took that approach.
Yeah,
I mean, most white parents be like, "No, I'm going this way. It's too much
exactly.
crime."
I don't want, so I mean, many of them are saying, hey, I don't want harm for you, but I know that there's harm being done to you, and I don't want to, have that being done to my children.
So I usually don't talk about politics on here, but I'm curious to know what did you
Let's go.
think about Trump saying, that the Haitian people in Springfield are eating cats and dogs and pets.
Um, so Trump is the like quintessential example of American culture to me. And
Mm.
right, like, so many people denied racism existed until he ran in 2016, and then was like, cool, at least I don't have to try and convince you of that anymore. Right.
Mhm.
And and the privilege and just the ability to get away with so many different things that he's able to get away with, just the nonstop lying. Our culture is built on lies. Like I said, we had to lie that having less melanin meant we were superior, so we have to build a system on lies. We now call it sales and marketing, right? So
Mm.
Trump to me is just that example, and now he's an old cranky old man being that example, and the system is coming after him because he's trying to exploit it. So yeah, of course he's just throwing stuff at the wind. He's trying to get this race thing. Where can
Mm.
I hit this immigrant problem? Where can I hit this Kamala's Black woman problem? How can I say this in a way that's going to stick? And he's throwing everything out at the wind. But I mean,
Mm.
he's dangerous, you know.
I mean,
And
yeah, because inciting violence and fear, and it's definitely a scary matter. It's like I've seen some Republicans in my time, and they just didn't incite that type of energy that Trump is pushing out here. And I'm like, okay, I can't. I just don't want him in there. I mean, I'm not even like someone. I know some people vote for him for different reasons because I don't even talk about politics on here. But I just feel like if someone's putting out bad energy, because I believe in frequencies and energies, I just don't want that out there, and then we're starting all over again. We got to go through stuff, and a lot of people don't read, and that's important. You got to read to understand the policies and how this stuff works, because they
You
don't
got to
even know.
read. You got to experience life. You got to chat. You got to be
Yeah.
willing to ask questions and whatnot. And so he's feeding off of a people that are angry, that this system has worked for so many generations, and now with such a divide in the amount of wealth at the high top of few compared to so many of us now being struggling, we are trying, there's so many of us trying to hold on to what we have, as well as see the system as the problem. And the Democratic Party didn't really represent the change that was happening. They tried to hold on to. That's why Kamala is saying all these things to bring on Republicans. We want Dick Cheney in this Democratic Party now for whatever reason, right? And so, and I don't say we as if I'm a Democrat. I've to be 100% clear, I have not voted in for so many long years, because voting for somebody is what I would be doing. And I can't find, so many people are just voting against. So they're picking Trump because they're voting against the system. In the Democratic Party, there were candidates that were really about change, and they got shut down. And people see that. And so now you're either voting against this crazy old man, or you're voting against the system. But either way, there's very few options that we are actually like, we're voting for this person. Because I don't hear any of them talking in depth about how policy works, let alone all their promises that they're making.
Yeah, they're not talking in depth. I remember I found out how it worked when I was probably 24 years old. I was listening to Michael Basin in Atlanta, and he broke down how it works, and my mouth dropped. I didn't know how it worked. I thought at that time I thought the president did everything. Oh
Did
no,
everything, right?
there's
They make
steps
all
to
the
it.
promises to us, right? When I get in
Yeah,
office, this is going to happen, that's going to happen. Well, 90% of their promises can't even be done by them. So,
no, and
you
and
know,
also I just think the billionaires run the world. So
yeah, for
to
sure.
me, it's like, they run it. I mean, I can't
Right.
say, I did get my student loans erased, so I'm happy about that.
Well,
I did through when Obama was president, I did get through a free tech program for Black and brown people. So I
right.
do thank him for that. There are little things
There
that
are little things.
feel,
And what's
yeah.
interesting about that is those good things are less publicized, right?
Yeah, because nobody knew about it.
But
Nobody knew.
why is that? Reparations is an absolute killer. If you want to commit
Oh, I was gonna
political
bring it.
suicide while you're running, say that you want reparations. If you want to commit political suicide, say that you want to get rid of all the harmful chemicals in our food, all the harmful chemicals in our cleaning supplies, all of the things that are really hurting us and causing us cancers and all these things. Say that you want a real
Yeah.
natural world and you want to protect our fruits and vegetables and all of that, and
Oh
guarantee
heck
you
no.
your
Mm-mm.
political life will be gone. Why is it that the two most humane things we could be doing is repairing our harm and providing us health are two things that are not allowed in our political systems?
Nope. Because they got to get those billionaires and get their money, their pockets
Yeah.
fat. That's how it works. And I'm
Yeah.
like, because I remember watching What the Health, the documentary, and I was
Yeah.
just like, oh, I
I've been
mean, and
I've been plant-based for over 18 going on 19 years, so
how did that start? Like, how did you do that? I mean, like,
well,
what was the
it's
first steps?
the first step for me was in college. I made a bet with my friends because they had just given up beef and pork, and they kept pushing me to do it. And I don't know if you're old enough to even know the movie Boomerang.
Oh yeah, I love Boomerang.
Okay, so when it first came out, and the line, I eat everything on the pig from the rooter to the tutor.
Yeah.
So that was my line back to them. Are you kidding? I'm not giving up beef and pork. I eat everything from the rooter to the tutor. And they said, okay, well, we'll bet you if you do it for a month that you'll never want to go back. And I bet them thinking I was going to win, and I was arrogant. I'm like, you know what? I eat cereal twice a day. I'm going to give up drinking milk too. And so I
Mm.
did that, and about halfway through the month, I'm like, wow, I'm really not snotting anymore. My stomach
Mm.
doesn't hurt near as much as when I used to
Mm.
eat all of these things. Maybe there's something to this. And I went and I gave up that year. The next year I gave up chicken. The next year turkey. Did the pescatarian thing and promised myself when I turned 30, and I don't even know why I made the promise, that I was going to go vegan. And then I met a community of African Hebrew Israelites that were based out of Israel, but
Mm.
had extensions all around the United States and other countries. And they had vegan restaurants as a core part of their mission, and started eating at the one in St. Louis. I was working for Nelli at the time. His uncle was a member of the
Oh yeah,
community.
yeah.
And
Mhm.
and I went there and saw a level of humanity I had never seen before, and I
Mm.
was hooked.
Yeah, because I think I'm getting close to that journey myself. I've been getting sick a lot from just eating meat and stuff. I don't know what's in it or what's going on, but it's just not the same as it was in my 20s.
Well,
Like,
we can talk offline too, but it's not
yeah.
just the meat anymore. It's the enriched process. It's all the processing that they put it through. It's all the additives that they put in there. Like, it is really, I was thinking the other day when I went out to a restaurant, like about
Mm.
98% of the food at restaurants I can't eat to really
Dang.
be healthy. And that's pretty
Wow.
sad because people go out. I mean, I'm in St. Louis, so there's maybe
Oh
two or
man.
three vegan restaurants that I'm even aware of.
Wow. Man, that's a journey, but I think people need to look into that for real. Now, you met Nelly. How did you meet Nelly?
So Nelly's on the cover with me. He's kneeling next to me. He was one of my high school friends. We met right before high school. He moved into our community in the
Hmm.
seventh grade. And he played sports. So did all of us, although I didn't play basketball being 5'3". But I did hang out with the basketball team, and we just became very close friends. I was entrepreneurial, and as his career took off, he asked me to help him with some entrepreneurial projects. So,
Mm.
like apple bottoms and pimp juice energy drink, and
Oh.
his touring and merchandise, and just setting up his business structures.
Oh wow. That's amazing. Like how was that experience, and did that ricochet to more people contacting you to set up their businesses and stuff, or other
So
celebrities?
I didn't end up using it that way. I regret that now.
Hmm.
I really stayed in the shadow of everything, and kind of really was the one in the office making things happen behind the scenes. So I developed very few relationships outside, and that's, something that like I said, I regret at this point. Um, but it was a great experience. I mean, my whole time, given that I've been on this journey of wanting to impact racism and be and really from a reparative justice standpoint, I went into banking right after college, and before I could really get going in it is when his career took off. I thought I would use my whiteness to kind of weave my way through the system, get up to a higher level, and then
Mhm.
make a social impact. Well, when I'm with Nelly and I can call anybody and say, yes, this is Nelly's business manager, I started to recognize the level of people I could reach.
Mhm.
And so my hope was to get to that level and start to figure out how I could also influence change. Things when we didn't have the luxury of selling 500,000 albums, and then 2 million albums, and then
Mhm.
4 million albums and whatnot, and we could grow and with our success. It went from zero and living in a struggling to pay the bills
Mm.
in a 1 bedroom apartment to $1 million check and advancement, because we're at the top of the charts with Britney Spears and
Oh
Eminem
yeah.
from day one. And so everything happened so fast. And for
Mm.
4 years, there's people behind the scenes trying to manipulate. And eventually, Nelly's
Mhm.
so busy and I'm so busy over here, and our communication started to fade. And we
Oh
allowed people to
man.
come between us that
Yeah.
I think we both regret at this moment. But yes. So I left in 2004, and I went to Israel in 2005. And that's when I really changed spiritually how I was approaching life.
Oh wow. So are you spiritual now or just are you
So
religious?
I've never been very religious. Grew up Jewish, heavy on the ish is what I like to say.
Mm.
Um, but having learned from the Hebrew Israelites, what they said made so much sense for connecting a lot of dots that were missing for me. And so
Mm.
getting the better understanding of what the creator was versus our God constructs. What are these? What is the true interpretation of these stories and how history has translated them? How did Europeans play a role in our new definitions for so many different things? How is the power
Mm.
to define used to control our thinking and our ability to, connect with one another? And so all of that really helped me. I also saw a community that I immediately wanted to help out. I had never seen humanity like this. They didn't lock their doors. It was a true village to raise a child mentality. It
Oh
couldn't
wow.
happen here in the United States in this way. And I wanted to spread the word. Yet here I come with, oh, I'm not racist and I'm a good guy and I this, that, and the other. I had never experienced what the intentionality that needs to go into creating that really means. And then to look at that and see how much of a threat that is to our society.
Mm.
Imagine that the greatest threat isn't protesting and calling out people being wrong. It's
Mm-mm.
actually not participating in the system and building a system of peace and love. Like that is a threat to this. So that means
Mhm.
that there's no love in that system if this is a threat.
Yeah, I totally agree. I mean, I think that, yeah, I always say if we come together and start like, I know we had a town before and it got blown up. What was it? It was that we had like a black
Black
city
Black
and
Wall Street and
yeah, Black Wall Street, and they blew
Rosewood
us
and
up.
all this. Yeah,
Yeah, but I still think, hey, pockets of different people. You try again, you can't get all of us because we're in a different time now, and just pockets of. But it's just so many
so
black people are working so much they don't even know what when is up or down.
right. And they're
It's so
so far removed from what the true Black culture is, or true culture of indigenous and aboriginal folks are,
mm,
right? We're stuck in this maze. I mean, Terrence Howard pointed this out, and I've always felt this way,
mm,
but I didn't have the real simple words to put to it. Humans are the only animal on the planet that use a monetary system to get their needs met. Like
yep.
that's pretty ridiculous,
It
right?
really is. It
And
really is.
so
That's
so to imagine it's not really the money, it's the control. But the money
mhm,
originally was just a medium of exchange of energy, right? Either I
mhm,
made this table, you want one, this comes from my energy here. We have some medium for exchange of that, but it's truly a medium of exchange of energy, right? Like you could be
yep,
charging me, I could be charging you, all of these different
mhm,
at what point, where do we draw the lines of all these different things? Where is our energy measured and stopped? And now we took the exchange of that medium, I mean, the medium for that exchange, and we said we can hold on to it. We can do tricks with it over here, and we call them
mhm,
investments and
yep,
do gambling things with it and remove it from the system of flow. I remember this older Black gentleman who was a mentor to me said, what if we just made money with a expiration date? We'd solve a lot of
mm,
these problems because you'd have to keep it flowing. You can't just stash it and hold on to it. It would
yep.
have to keep flowing because it's an energy. It's a medium for the exchange of energy, and energy
It
has to
really
keep
is.
flowing.
Yeah, I totally agree with that. I mean, I always say on this podcast, everything's made up. Everything is made up. It
Yeah,
doesn't even have to be like
everything,
this. People shouldn't be
everything.
hungry. People
Yeah.
shouldn't. I mean, this is really real. I don't. I know it sounds crazy, but I say that all the time.
No, it's
But
so, and it imagine like the use of land is our biggest problem too, right? Like
mhm,
we're growing. I'm in the Midwest, I can't go 10 minutes drive outside of the city without seeing cornfields or soybean fields.
mm,
Why? We don't eat that much corn and soybean. We're
mm-mm.
using it for other things. We could be using that land to grow cauliflower and feed the
Yes.
people that are local to here, apple trees and other things.
Mhm,
What are we doing? We don't have
Yep.
to do this. So we've been so far removed. The leader of the African Hebrew Israelite community I was part of was Ben Ami, and he wrote a book called The Imitation of Life. And that's really what we're in. Just because you're
Yes.
breathing doesn't mean you're living.
Oh man.
We need
Yes.
to get back to connection with the earth, with each other. And it's so much more enjoyable when we can do that.
Yeah, we really do. I think people so caught up on trying to make money right now that nobody can really, because this is the way they made it,
Yeah,
to
for
be
sure.
like a slave and stuff. And I think it just makes it harder for us to get to that, because people are just doing stuff they don't want to do, and then it drains you. And then when you're black in corporate America, then that drains you, especially if you're in a
Right.
higher up position. So
Has
then you're
to,
stressed out from that when you get home. So it's like you're getting double whammy, and you're like, dang, I just
without a
want to be
doubt.
free. And I mean, and that's the thing. We just got to keep pushing that message to hope that people can all find a way out. Because if we all can do that, and I don't know if it'll be in my time, but it's gonna be in another time, maybe.
The key is they have to make it so complex for us to see, because it's really simple to do, right? It's
Man,
it's really simple, not in this system. And hands off, hats off to them. They have done a great job of making such a destructive, con- controlled system, right? Like deceived. We are so deceived. It is so hard, even to tell somebody who's sick that here's a simple way of healing yourself. It's just let's deal with the foods
mm-hmm.
that you eat. And for them to go, no, 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 no. I'm just worried about who's going to pay for these medical bills.
See, yeah, they don't want to eat right. Like you're telling them to do this, that. Oh, it's too much money. Well, it. There's a way to budget things, and
Right.
there's a way to. If you want it bad, you want to breathe, you're gonna find a way to eat right,
Sure.
and
Your
and
values,
that's
our values have to change.
our values
Right.
have to change. Yep,
Yeah.
I
Because
totally
that's
agree.
what starts it all. We build the rest of it from our values.
I agree, and that's that. I had to change myself, and if I didn't put it in my mind and get disciplined, I would be back where I was. And I still got some further to go, but I'm better than where I was because I changed. I changed. I
Right.
said, "This is what I'm gonna do." So you wrote a book. What inspired you to write the book?
So I've been wanting to write the book since I got involved in anti-racism work in white spaces, right? And I started to
Mm-hmm.
recognize that a lot of these people had really good intentions on one hand, and yet their intentions still were built in white culture, and they had no experience of other cultures to even have a reference point to understand this was our cultural way of doing things. And so it became very difficult at times to communicate with them, even though they would see and hear me speak and I sounded very different.
Mm-hmm.
The idea of making some of the changes was very tough. The idea of really going through and understanding our whiteness and what that meant culturally hundreds of years ago and how this formed really became challenging. And so rather than just try and focus where I was struggling at, I felt like, okay, I need to get it all out, and I can get it all out in a book. And maybe it's not all every question isn't answered, but at least a lot of it is. And so some of it is stories of my journey to give a background so that it kind of gives you an understanding of where I'm coming from and how I got to it. And then the other half of the book is 7 steps to healing the harm of our culture.
7 steps to healing the harm of our culture. So what's your favorite chapter in the book?
Ooh, my favorite chapter, since the chapters are in the memoir sections,
Hmm.
might be the chapter on prestige, because that leads into the steps, but then also the chapter on recognizing my own privilege, because I tell stories of a mall hustle my friends and I did that we got away with because of my white skin mainly.
Oh, oh
and
dang.
and even because of their black skin, they created the diversion, and I was able to purchase things at a much lower price than they would normally be priced at, and then take them back at the higher price and keep getting credit for that and building a whole mission around that. But I got to really see my privilege work in action that way.
Wow. That is interesting. I love it. That book sounds interesting. Got to check that out myself.
Please do. I would love to hear
Yeah.
your feedback on it.
Yeah, I read a lot of books, even though I'm behind right now, but I'm trying to get better at that.
Well, there's an
So,
audio book in case you want to just listen to it
oh,
while you're driving.
yeah, it's something nostalgic about holding the book in my hand. It's just
Yeah,
something about it. I don't know. I don't know how to explain it. I'm so
that's
old
that's
school.
fine. I'm just telling you, there's options for this
That's
one.
good to know. That's good to know. So you also have a podcast too, huh?
Yes. So we did one season of it. We're figuring out when and how to launch the second season. But I met a man who grew up in Iowa as a Black man in a mostly white neighborhood with all, ton of white friends and peers. And so we said, why don't we get to know each other on a podcast? Him being Black, growing up in a white world, me being white, growing up in a Black world, and talk about our differences and our stories and how that shaped our view of society from the lens of race. And so that's what we did for 27 episodes.
Wow, I know that blew up in 5 minutes.
Yeah.
Because that's so interesting. People would just eat that up. Like, how does that work? How does that? I mean, that's really interesting.
Yeah, and the interesting thing is it's not the same, because that's why we call it same difference, right? Because yes, on one hand, we're obviously melanated differently. On the other hand, it sounds like we both grew up as minorities, yet I had the power structure behind me. He had not only being the minority, but the power structure was behind the majority. So that's a very different, upbringing still. And so,
Wow.
yes, there's very different dynamics that we had to discuss in these.
Yeah, I gotta check that out too. That sounds real interesting. Okay. So before I get into the game, I'm gonna ask, what does success mean to you? What does making it means to you? Like made it means to you?
um, I had to redefine this so much. So where am I right now with that? Success is based on the impact that I have on younger generations. For me, if if I can have if I can see a sparked change in younger generations that are building towards more humanity, and I've contributed in some way to helping guide or open up minds or whatever it is to make that change towards improving the quality of life, that's success for me. I don't know how to measure it necessarily, but that's what it is.
I like that you said that because a lot of times people look at success in so many different ways. Like, oh, you got the Maybach and you're in some
Yeah,
mansion. That means you made it. But
right,
I've come to learn that that doesn't mean you made it. What means you made it is what makes you happy to go to bed at night. What makes you happy to go to sleep at night. And I
right.
think that's the what making it means to me. So
Yeah.
I had to figure that out. So I was like, but that was a good answer. That makes sense. Okay, so I'm gonna ask you 3 questions from Would You Rather game. So the first question is, let me make sure I'm on the okay. Let's see. Would you rather wake up tomorrow as a completely different person in a random country with no memory of your past, or live the same day on repeat for a year, but you control every detail?
Oh, I mean, if I could control every detail, we would repair the earth in a year.
I like that one. Yeah.
So, yeah, I would definitely take that one. Although saying that I want to be in control as a white man does not sound great. But yes, I would definitely want to have some healing take place.
Well, yeah, I mean, it makes sense because you got to be a different person in a random country. You might not want to do that. You won't have no memory of your past. I think it's better to live the same day and repeat and control your destiny.
Yeah.
That's a better choice. Okay, here's the second one. Let's see, would you rather know the exact date and time of your death, or live forever but watch everyone you love grow old and pass away?
Wow, that is a little more interesting than it sounds simple about living forever and whatnot. And I probably would still want to do that. Uh, if I do have one fear, it's like I would love to just die in a real peaceful, simple manner and not like suffocate or something like that. Um, but yeah, I would probably still live forever.
Yeah, that's true. That's why some people want to be a vampire. All right, last question. Would you rather be famous for something terrible you didn't do or completely forgotten for something incredible you did?
Completely forgotten for something incredible I did. Yeah,
There you
there's
have it.
I yeah, absolutely. I don't want to be known for being known's sake. If I'm known because I have something to share that's positive, then I'm willing to put myself out there for that. But I don't want to be known for known's sake.
Man, I agree with you on that one. I don't want to be, because then you'd be in a mansion crying yourself to sleep at night or something.
Yeah.
Because and you're famous, you look good,
There's
but
a lot
then
of miserable, famous, or wealthy or influential
mm,
people because the
yeah,
way that this system is set up, as I said, it's not designed with love in mind. And a lot of the ways to become successful in that way and have so much is to be very isolated and individualistic thinking, and that's a
mm,
lonely thing at the end of the day.
yeah, it really can be, and especially, and I also believe it's the mindset because you could. I remember one time I was watching this documentary, and this guy was a millionaire, but he was happy because he just chill. He just had a good mindset. He had his
Certainly.
garden and he played his music and he just mind his business. Um, Especially for me, someone I'm an introvert, so for me, I'm like I could be by myself, and then also I can be with certain people. So it's kind of like it just depends on the mindset of the person,
Right.
but and what you did to get there. Because if you sell
Yeah.
your soul, yikes.
Yeah.
So I don't hold you up anymore. I know we're past the time, but I want
That's
to thank you
okay. I've
so much.
enjoyed it.
Yes,
Yeah.
me too. I want to thank you so much for coming to the show. And where can everybody support you at? I'm going to put in the show notes, but you can shout out where everybody can follow.
So go to raceforwhat.com. You can get to all of my social media links from there, although most of them end with whatever at race for what or something. And read more about me, read more about the books, the blogs, the just follow along with what we got going on. I'm looking to build a program for the 7 steps online program, as well as something that I can use and be interactive with people. And yeah, more to come. Keep in touch.
Yes, stay in touch with JD very much. We have to keep spreading these messages because if we don't do it, then no one else will.
Right.
So I want to thank everyone for tuning in and subscribe, share, and follow, and be safe. Peace.